Good morning and welcome to worship. We are so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for the band for leading worship this morning. I hope you give them thanks and your appreciation for being our worship team this morning. Our gospel reading is a continuation of the Christmas story. It comes from Luke's Gospel, chapter 2. It's printed on your handout if you'd like to follow along. Luke writes, "When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, 'Let us go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about.' So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in a manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. On the 8th day, when it was time to circumcise the child, he was named Jesus, the name the angels had given him before he was conceived." Here ends our gospel reading for this morning. Well, today is the last day of 2017. And if you are like me at the end of the year, you probably reflect back on the past year and you think about all the mistakes you made, all the messes you made over the past year. I know I've made a few messes and, I've made a few mistakes this past year. But I also believe that any mistake we learn from is not really a mistake, it's a learning opportunity. So as we wrap up 2017 and you begin to reflect back over the past year, you may think of some of the mistakes you made, some of the messes you've made. Well, I've got this powerful video I'd like to share with you about how we tend to make a bigger mess of things. So check it out and we'll talk on the other side.
My dad has always been a tinkerer. He likes doing things with his hands and learning how to fix things. And for instance, growing up, I don't remember my dad ever taking our car to get an oil change. And that was just one of those things he seemed to like doing himself. Over the course of a few oil changes, he'd slowly fill up this large metal container with the used oil. And this stuff was dirty. I mean, it was filthy. It was basically sludge. Eventually, he would take it to get recycled, but in the meantime, it sat along the wall of our garage. And my brother and I had strict instruction to keep our distance. And we did. We definitely did. Except the one time when I didn't. On that particular occasion, I was innocently strolling by when I stopped. I looked around, took a couple steps back, and I remember I could actually hear the sound of my heart beating as I saw myself reflected in that inky sludge. And I knew exactly what I should not do. And I did it anyway. I plunged both hands in until I was up to my elbows. It was thick and slimy and dirty. Basically, it was awesome. And then it wasn't awesome. That's when I realized just how much trouble I was in. The oil clung to me, even as it dripped from my fingertips. I tried to flick it off, and it splattered all over. I tried to skim it off and wipe it off, but nothing was working. I grabbed a rag that was way too small for the task, and at this point, total panic. I snuck inside to the bathroom where I scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed with soap and water, but all I managed to do was smear oil all over myself, all over the white porcelain sink, all over the bathroom floor. In trying to clean up my own mess, I'd made it so much worse. Finally, I did the only thing left to do. Dad! I heard his footsteps from the other room, then in the hall. And as he opened the door, I burst into tears. I was so ashamed. Without a word, he took one of my oil-smeared hands and led me to the kitchen. From underneath the sink, he pulled out a can of this orange-scented, sandy kind of soap. And then he stood there and helped me wash away all the mess I'd made.
Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, a little unsteady. Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, a little unsteady. Mama, come here, approach, appear. Daddy, I'm alone, 'cause this house don't feel like home. If you love me, don't let go. If you love me, don't let go. Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, little unsteady. Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, little unsteady. Mother, I know you're tired of being alone. Dad, I know you're trying. Fight when you feel like flying. If you love me, don't let go. If you love me, don't let go. Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, little unsteady. Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, little unsteady. Hold on to me, 'cause I'm a little unsteady, a little unsteady.
What a powerful message. You know, so often we know we shouldn't put our hands into oil, in essence. We shouldn't mess with stuff, but we do. We make a mess of things. We do things we know we shouldn't have done. But even though we make mistakes, I want you to know this. You are not a mistake. As we move into 2018, you and I are going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up. We're going to be tempted to do things we know we shouldn't do, and we're going to give in to temptation. But the Christmas story is such that Jesus came to help us clean up our messes. So as we move into 2018, remember this: Jesus is with you to help you clean up the mess, to learn from our mistakes. May we enter this new year joyfully because Jesus is with us. He is the Savior of the world. Happy New Year.